Oh, okay, so I'm not doing it.
Okay, so before I mute you all, here's the ground rule. So I'm going to mute you all. And I'm going to introduce Nicole, and then we're going to have a little conversation. And then in the last 15 minutes, we'll open it up for questions. But if you have questions along the way that are absolutely burning, put them in the chat and I'll read them. So here we go. Hang on. Oh, where is it that I get to mute everybody? Oh,
I think if you go into participants.
yeah, it's not showing anything. Oh, here we go. Okay, you're right. Mute all. Okay, here we go. Boom. But I'm gonna have to I'll unmute you in a second here, Nicole, if I can find you.
I already unmuted
Oh, you're
myself.
good. Okay, great. Perfect. You know how this game is played. All right. Thanks everyone for coming. My name is Ray Beldner, if you don't know me, and I hope you all do. This is a kind of like a monthly, semi-annual kind of conversation that I host with people in the art world that I'm just interested in. And I recently met Nicole virtually after hearing about her for months from every artist that I know. And we finally figured out that we really need to talk to each other to find out what we're all about. And then I decided to invite her to tell her more about what she does. And as far as I know, she's like a professional artist coach, whereas I'm a hobbyist. I do it on the side every once in a while. She actually does it every day for many artists and is apparently very effective. And I'm going to have her tell you more about herself, and then we'll talk about what that is and how she helps artists. So Nicole, thank you for being here, and tell us what you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that great intro. I'm so honored to be here. I'm so excited. I see a lot of familiar faces and a couple of new ones. So I'm really happy that everyone made this time to hear us talk. And I'm really curious about everyone's marketing questions. My name is Nicole Slater. And, essentially what I do is I help creative people share their message with the world. And through business networking, email marketing, and social media, I know a lot of artists find it really hard to self-promote, and it feels icky, and you get that like weird car salesman feeling, the idea of like putting your stuff out there. So I help, artists be okay with marketing in a way that's organic for them, that fits with their values, that feels good, and just help people strategize on how they can move their career forward. So I work one-on-one with clients, and then I've been doing a lot of workshops lately, and a lot of speaking things like this. So I'm really, really honored to be here.
Tell us your background, though, because you gave me the story and I thought it was really kind of fascinating how you started out in radio in Nevada and then you ended up in LA. So how'd that all happen?
I've had 1,000 weird jobs before. I've worked in antiques. I've worked in bariatric surgery. I've worked for Section 8 in public housing, and all kinds of other weird stuff. But eventually, around 20 something, I got into radio, and my first job was actually as a webmaster for 4 radio stations. I was 21, and I took one HTML class in high school and lied on my application that I totally know how to do web design, and I was off and running. So that was my first job. And then I was in radio for 10 years and also on air. I was a hard rock and heavy metal DJ. So that was really, so if you think you'll see this face and you think of Avenged Sevenfold and Metallica and Slayer, that's what I was doing for a couple of years. And I really, really enjoyed it. But there was 1,000 radio DJs out there. And this Facebook thing was getting really big. And everyone at the radio station was not nice to me because I was young and filled with piss and vinegar. And but all of a sudden they're like, oh, how do I update my Facebook page? How do I do this? How do I do that? I was like, oh, there's something here. So I kind of just dove straight into digital. Since 2005, I've been riding that digital wave and eventually came to Los Angeles and worked for Go Country and K-Jazz and K-Mozart and K-Earth 101, 94.7 The Wave, and 97.1 Amp, and also K-Rock. So I was their digital director for several years, and just really, really loved radio. And then around 29, 30, decided to start working for myself and worked for a numerous amounts of different kinds of peoples and hotels and restaurants and musicians and comedians. And then in the last 4 or 5 years, really have focused on fine art and working for art advisors like Fresh Paint Art Advisors. And then really focused in on artists. I just love working with artists. They're the nicest people. When you come from rock radio, when you come from musicians and narcissism and all that kind of crazy stuff, artists are so interesting, and they're introverted and they're creative and they're kind and they're weird and they're awkward and they're amazing. And I'm weird and awkward. So, you know, I don't know, I just vibe with artists. And I think art is just the ultimate act of vulnerability, of putting your idea out there. And I'm just really interested in helping people get their message out there and help being vulnerable in a way that makes sense, you know, with marketing. And I've been doing marketing for 20 years now. So I'm bringing corporate America marketing experience to the art world, you know.
You started with musicians. And then you transitioned over to artists. But how did that happen? Did you meet an artist and say, I can help you and you're a lot nicer than this dickhead musician? Or like, what was that?
It was really weird. I was in a bar in Venice, and during the Venice Art Walk, I volunteered because I lived in Marina del Rey at the time. And I ran into an old high school friend, Naomi, and we became friends. So I didn't know her in high school. I knew her sister. And we were friends for a couple of years. And then she started working for Fresh Paint Art Advisors. And they needed a marketing person. So I came in on there as a kind of adjunct. And then I went to one of their art fairs or their sales. And I met Ann Weber and Valerie Wilcox, which I know a lot of people know who those two amazing artist women are. And they became my first clients.
Wow.
And then Ann Weber, when we started working together, had 4,000 Instagram followers, and she now has almost 60,000 in a year and a half. So it's but she's as people know, Ann, she's just like, she grabs things by the bullhorns, you know, she just like, she goes for it. So
when you work with an artist, how does that work? Do you work on a per hour basis? Are you like a lawyer that has a retainer? What's your
I'm so happy I'm not a lawyer or like a lawyer. For my business, I should probably more be like a lawyer. But I work hourly. I do a monthly retainer. So I work with artists twice a month. Every 2 weeks, we meet for an hour and we go over your goals. You know, before you get into the system, essentially, I have a wait list because right now my clients are full. And once I have an opening, I'll pull someone up and we'll have a free discovery call for about 45 minutes and just kind of go over your goals and what you want to do. And, you know, not every artist has the same goal. Some artists want to be in museums. Some want to sell and make lots of money. Not as many people in this category as I would expect. Some people want a really high-end gallery, and some people just want to make art, you know, and kind of toot around. So just kind of identifying what path they are in as an artist. And after that discovery call, we'll set up, you know, twice a month to meet 1 hour at a time, and we'll just go over your goals, set high, you know, payoff actions, and just find an organizational system. Artists have ADD a lot. I have ADD. So we'll just kind of figure out what works for you, how to organize and strategize within your world, within your studio, and just start moving forward, just slowly stepping forward for your goals. A lot of what I do is just accountability, you know, having someone to be accountable to and check things off a list. It just feels really good because I think a lot of times with marketing, people just oh, I gotta post. Okay, I'll post this. It's, oh, I gotta do something. Oh, maybe I'll post this flyer. There's not a lot of thought behind their content, and they know that they need to do it and they should do it, but there's no like long-term plan. So we create a long-term
So
plan.
you help them create goals, create a plan to get to those goals, create kind of a methodology,
A strategy,
for
yeah.
moving towards them, and then you hold them accountable.
Yeah. I'm not mean. There's no like, like if you don't do the things
You
on your
throw
list.
an axe though,
But
so I don't know
oh yeah,
about that.
that's my new hobby is axe throwing, and I'm oddly very good at it.
And
So,
everybody is playing pickleball, but you're getting into axe throwing. That's kind of
yeah, I just joined my second league, so
Okay.
now I do big axe as well. I do hatchet
Wow.
and big axe.
So what would you say is, I mean, it's generalizing, of course, but if you were to generalize, what's kind of the main thing that when artists come to you, they need from you? What are they looking for? Are they looking for organization? Are they looking for?
When I first got into this business, especially doing consulting, I really thought that most of the things I'd work with my clients are just marketing tools. This is what a hashtag is. This is how you post, mechanical stuff. 80% of what I do is more psychological and more giving yourself permission to be seen, wanting to be seen, being okay with being seen, being okay with taking up space, and being okay with success.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pitfalls in art and the starving artist mentality. And let's be honest, this industry is really rough. There's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of unanswered emails and packets you're sending out and gallery requests. And there's a lot of power dynamics. So a lot of what I do is just strategizing how to meet that gallery owner. Oh, I had a studio visit. Okay, what's the next step? And then just building confidence as an artist. And I think from having a plan, like that builds confidence, and that builds like, okay, I know what I'm doing, things are rolling, and being able to see that trajectory go up really helps with confidence as an artist.
So what you're telling me is that a lot of what you're doing for the artist is kind of psychological. You're essentially.
I'm not a therapist.
I know you're not,
not licensed, but maybe like coaching.
I hesitate to say that, but basically you're that support system for them, a psychological and kind of strategic support system for them to get their work done. Yeah.
I think I can teach you how to build a poster in Canva or post on Instagram. We can do all the, let's build a template in MailChimp. Great. I can tell you what days to post and when to post, but it's more of, hey, I just had that interaction with this person. What do you think of this? What is my next step? Do you feel like it'd be too much if I sent the gallery owner, this, flowers or whatever? You're like, no. Like learning power dynamics, learning how to meet people when you're on the same level, like at a party or something, treating people as contemporaries rather than them being so great and all powerful. And, oh, I'm, a lonely, poor artist coming again, just interaction socially with confidence. And like you said, accountability and strategy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm kind of fascinated. I mean, I've taught professional practices for 20 years. I, have had many students go on to be very successful. I like to think that I had a little hand in that. And every once in a while, when people twist my arm, I will kind of do a coaching session with them. But I've also been in this business for 30 years now. That's how old I am. And it's interesting to hear you talk about it, because I think you're kind of spot on in terms of how you guide people and, what your strategy is. I think it's very common sense, but you've never been in the art world. And so it makes me think, well, maybe
I do art, but not professionally. Yeah.
Right. So maybe these ideas, maybe these business ideas, and just this whole idea about accountability and getting organized is a kind of a more generic thing that kind of applies across all disciplines.
Yeah. It was funny because when I started going to art receptions, the person I was dating before was an artist. And so we did a lot of art receptions and galleries and stuff like that. And again, coming from the music industry where everyone is very about themselves, very okay with being, here's my song, buy my shirt, here's my CD, and very interested in talking about themselves. It was very weird and very awkward going to art receptions and gallery receptions. No one talked to me. It was like, as soon as I said the M word, marketing, it's like cockroaches, turn on the lights, and then everyone's like, I hate marketing. And I'm like, cool. I'm not going to talk to you,
Yeah. And all the scowling artists in the corner, nursing their wine, looking at all the successful people, being all angry.
Yeah, and bitter and all that stuff. And it's so funny because when I go to these talks, when I talk to the artists I work with, everyone's just really screaming for community and really wants community. And it really goes to what you've built with these salons and Andy and a way to just like, how do I get that gallery owner to like pay attention to me? How do I get, my, is this the right kind of proposal that I should send for this grant? It's so nice to have these safe spaces to ask questions and it's not so much pressure.
The art world is very, it's getting more transparent, but it's pretty opaque. And what I noticed early on when I started teaching, and I was just teaching sculpture and installation art and conceptual art practices. But I noticed with my students who like graduated and left, they would just disappear. And every once in a while I'd run into them in a cafe or a restaurant where they were working. And I'd be like, well, what are you doing? I'm not doing anything anymore. Because they had no idea how the art world worked.
And they don't prepare you in school.
No, in art school, and having taught in art schools for 20 years, even universities, because I've taught at Berkeley and UC Santa Cruz, and private institutions, they don't have any courses to teach you about the profession that you're supposedly going into. And so artists kind of like, they learn about the art world like they learn about sex. They just pick it up in the street. It's like they hear things, right? It's like, oh, I'll try that. And it doesn't work that way. It's not good. But I did notice that for me, and you mentioned it earlier, this idea of community, it's probably the most important thing. When I taught professional practices to my kids, I'd always say, just look around the room. You use all, look at yous. There's 15 of yous. 5 years from now, 2 of yous are going to be doing art. The rest of yous are going to be supporting those guys. And that's generally how it works. And that's okay because, I have friends who I went to graduate school with. They're curators in museums and they own galleries and they collect art, and that's fine. But it's like, but that's how we support each other. And artists, I don't think quite understand that, because in the absence of any good information about how the art world actually works and how you can go out and build a career, they imagine that a great artist shuts himself up in their garret and they paint until someone discovers them, and then they're in the Whitney Biennial and they're a millionaire. And they're a brand. I've heard an artist say they wanted to be a brand once. I think.
Oh God.
And so but in the absence of that, they imagine what it's like and they don't really understand how it works. But the key way it works in my book is community. And so from a very early age, I sort of stumbled on this concept because even though I like to consider myself a misanthrope and an introvert, I do have a wide circle of friends. And I think that I rely on them for a lot of advice and help. And I help them in return. And as a sculptor, I've always had a communal studio. So I've always shared my space with 3-4 people, and we've just helped each other. If one person had a studio visit, everybody had a studio visit. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Everybody got ready for the curator that came in, because he's going to pass through your studio into their studio. If you had a show at a gallery and, your buddy was in that, then you'd help them get a show in that gallery. So, and doing things like salons. I do my virtual salon now every Tuesday, but for 8 years in my studio in San Francisco, I ran a second Wednesday of the month salon, and it was seminal for everybody that went. I mean, lovers met, collaborators collaborated, friendships were made and destroyed. I mean, it was a lot of drama, but
Sounds like the Bravo channel.
yes, it was a little bit like the housewives of Bernal Heights. But it was great, and it actually carried me through the first part of my career quite nicely because of all the connections that were made in this real world, real-time space. Now we're all scattered and COVID has forced us to be virtual, but we can still, create those communities, which is what we're doing here right now. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So one thing that I think is really funny with our talk is you said like I'm a professional coach versus you're a hobbyist.
Yes,
like
I'm hobbyist.
You're like you're a reluctant coach, but you're like people, you use the term twist my arm and I'll but you're so good at it. And so many
my
people,
arm, i.e. send me money.
Yeah, there you go. And wait, that's a great question. That's something that we can talk about is money with art and how to raise your prices or set one thing that I work on with artists is everyone has kind of different pricing structures, which is fine, but I just want it to be consistent. If this size is about 5,000, but this one's kind of similar size and that's 1,000, or it's in this gallery it's 1,000, that gallery is 5,000. Setting appropriate prices across. What do you think about the concept of money in art?
Well, it's hugely important, and I used to poo-poo it even when I showed in commercial galleries, because I felt like the concept of money was beneath me as an artist. And then I started to realize how important that was, not just for me, but for my dealer, who was essentially my business partner. And so now I've embraced the idea that yes, you should have consistent pricing, and that you could even price per square inch if that makes it easy for you. But you have to have my strategy, or my thinking of it is you have to have one price. There's no retail wholesale for art. There's only retail. And if you show in a gallery, you give them a commission. Their commission is typically 50%. If you show with a consultant, it's going to be somewhere between 20 and 40%. So you can't have different pricing. It fucks people up. You also can't price your work in one show a certain way and then price it less because it didn't sell. You can't do that. It messes up your market. Whether artists want to realize it or not, we are small business people, and our work is a commodity, and it exists in a market just like a used car, a house, a clothing, or an iPhone. And so the market prevails all the time.
And if you want your work to appreciate in dollars, if people are collecting your work thinking that maybe in 10 years you'll be a prominent artist, or they can get a return of investment on your money, then consistent pricing is really important. I'd be really mad if I bought a painting for $5,000 and then I saw a similar painting in the same series, the same size, for $2,000. I immediately, it's like buying a car and then it just depreciated $3,000. So it's really important to have pricing consistent. It doesn't matter which gallery it's in,
and consistently move it up as things sell. Obviously, you want your pricing to go up if you're selling work. If you're not, then don't. But if you are, then do. And that should just be something you look at on a regular basis. And I that's really a tricky one for artists, I've found, besides the whole psychological thing.
I think consistency in general is hard, when you're an artist, because there's no one making you do anything, right? There's no mom and dad telling you to clean your room or, do your homework or, whatever. Maybe you are if you're a young artist, but as a business, as a self-employed artist, you have to have that structure, or find that structure. Like for me, I can't get anything done if I'm by myself. If there's somebody else in the room, I can get so much done. And it's this concept called body doubling. It's an ADD thing. So I used to invite my neighbor over. I'm like, just sit on my couch. I'll clean my whole house, because no one can know that I live like this, And so like he would just sit and play on his phone, and I would clean my whole house in about an hour and a half. And I'd be like, thank you so much. Like, it was wonderful. So it's like having an artist studio where someone else is will help you get things done.
You know, that's interesting. I never thought about that. I mean, I think we're all a bit ADHD. I know I am a little bit. My son certainly is diagnosed as ADHD. And I think there's probably something to that. I've always had communal studios with, you know, 3, 4 people. There's something about having them around which made me
It's the energy.
motivated. Yeah. Plus, we're all making big ass shit, so we need
You need some
help
space.
moving stuff.
I also, another trick that might help people, I have an accountability partner. So I meet with my friend Steven once a week for 1 hour on Zoom. And we just go over what we're going to get done, and then we just go do it. It can be cleaning, it can be taxes, it can be making dinner, you know, but it's like someone else is on Zoom, and I get so much done in that 1 hour. So finding an accountability partner.
Like admonish you while he's
no. He does his own thing. He says his stuff, you know, and then we just keep the camera on because I tend to get more stuff if someone can see me. It's these weird little psychological tricks.
You know what? I love that. I want to hear from people in the chat if they have tricks like that. Be interesting to know if other people on this call have shit like that they use to help them get motivated or organized. Oh, pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, that's half the battle, isn't it? Right? It's just like, you know, making sure you get shit done.
Jane says deadlines. Very true.
Deadlines motivate you, huh, Jane? Okay.
Another one would be just keep all your notes in one place. I know that sounds so simple, but a lot of people are half on paper and half digital and half on their phone. And then you can't remember. And some people are just little pieces of paper scattered around the house. So I went digital with my notes, and that way I can search.
What do you use? Do you use a particular app? Because I've been diving into this recently.
Yeah. So, well, when I work one-on-one with clients, I use one Google Doc, and I put all of the notes. So they have access to it and they can see, you know, everything we've worked on together. So that's one place. Another thing that I use personally is Trello. It's Trello.
I've used Trello.
Visual. So it's like you can have different boards or different like columns. So personal, these are my personal to-dos. This is my business to-dos. These are the things I'm waiting for. And the most fun, these are the done things. So then you can kind of drag and drop.
I used to use Monday when we ran the art fairs. I used Monday because it worked best for groups.
Yeah, exactly.
So everybody can see what everybody's doing, and then you can move shit over and you can cross things out as they go. But somebody just turned me on to a new app called To Do, and it's called TEUXDEUX. So do.
That's a terrible.
Yeah, but it's a really great app. It's super easy to use. It could sit on your laptop. It could be on your phone. It's not shareable with with anyone else. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that ability like Trello. It's spelled TEUXDEUX. Somebody just asked.
The other one I use is Evernote. So that's how I do my accounting. Actually, like I have QuickBooks and stuff, but I just, you know, list when I met with a client and I, you know, did they pay the invoice? What was the invoice number? And Evernote is really great for stuff like that. Just like quick, like little things you can, and they have little check boxes you can check off. There's something so gratifying about having a checkbox. And then the other thing is, if you make just one grand to-do list, it can get really overwhelming and then you shut down. So I always have two. I have a grand to-do list, and then I have a short to-do list. It can only have 3 things on it. That is the max. And you have to be able to possibly get that done in one day or whatever your concentration period is. And you just focus on this and kind of ignore that.
So here's what I like to do, and you guys might want to check it out. I'm on a free like month or something. It gives you your to-do list through the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If you don't do your to-dos on Thursday, it carries over to Friday, and it'll keep carrying over until you either cross it off or you put it somewhere else. At the bottom of the screen, there's other to-do lists. It's like grocery list, movies to watch, books to read, ideas. And then there's like this is the section I like. Someday, you know,
There you go.
just like someday you're going to get to this thing. It's just hovering down there, but someday you might get to it. So it's no pressure. I really like that. And I like that when you click on something, it crosses it out and it's done. It's gone. I mean, you could bring it back if you want, but I love the click off kind of feature with it. Anyway, I'm trying to find something free, but unfortunately everything costs. So you have to.
Well, Trello and Evernote are free.
Yeah.
There's another one, Todoist. There's a bunch of them. It really doesn't matter which one.
Right.
It's just that you actually use it, you
Keep
know.
it all in one place. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like having digital notes because then you can search. You might not know everything. You're like, oh yeah, what was that one thing that I talked to that guy named Dan? So you just search Dan and then the
Yeah.
note will come up, you know.
Yeah.
When it's on paper, you can't do that.
That's right. Yeah, I'm all about digital. I think keeping it on digital is a great way to be able to, you know, go back in time a little bit. Yeah. Anne says use Canvas and import rooms and then use background array. What? Hello. What is that? Does anyone know
The first
that?
question was from Mary. Does anyone know of an app for sculptors to share their work in an interior space? I am only finding apps for wall art, and I need to educate folks so they aren't afraid of sculpture. And someone said use Canva. And if you have the paid Canva, Canva is what I use to design everything. It's if you don't know Photoshop, and it has tons of great templates. So Canva's great. And they said use the background eraser, which is a paid feature, but you can take a picture of it. It'll take out the background. It's really nice.
Shelley was saying In Situ is another app to show your work. Good one.
Also, I don't know if you guys are into 3D modeling and stuff like that and 3D stuff. On the newest iPads, they have something called LiDAR technology. So you can actually scan your 3D sculpture and make it into a 3D sculpture, like on digitally, that you can scan the whole thing. It comes free. So
okay.
If you really want to get high tech.
Good to know. I love all this stuff. And saying, what's the name of that? How do you spell that? LiDAR?
LiDAR.
LIDAR or LY?
Yeah. On the late, I'll write it down. Latest iPads. It's the same technology that self-driving vehicles use to see like what other things are on the road and stuff.
So that
it's really easy to
never
use.
crashes.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, people, we're kind of at the point where if people have questions and want to unmute themselves, we can shout them out. I'm going to go on to my gallery thing here and see if anybody's got a. Therese always has a question. Go ahead.
And Ray, you always answer them.
I try.
Thank you. So both of you, I haven't asked this question in the community. So I've gone through different phases of working with different materials, and I worked with glass and light, minimal kinetic sculpture for a long time and showed in a glass gallery in New York. And now I'm working with sunlight and video and optical mirror. How do I address past work? You know, how do I still have it in the marketplace? Because, you know, I have series they're really beautiful. And right now I'm only showing the current work. And then also, do I use the same pricing that I was using at Heller Gallery? And, you know, that was 7 years ago. So how do you handle the pricing and marketing of past series? Because a lot of times artists feel like their past work doesn't have value, but people still want it and appreciate it. And I do too.
Yeah. Well, that was like 4 different questions. So we'll address each one. So the first one is like maybe on your website, like how do you your website should not be an anthology or like an archive of everything you've ever made. It really should just, in my opinion, and Ray, please interject, like the last 2 or 3 years. And then maybe you have like an archive section that you can address and show your older work. But you can still sell it. You can use something like ArtCloud or Artist Archive, which has forward-facing, stores essentially that you can showcase or put it on Saatchi. There's places that you can put your older work. As far as pricing, I'm going to defer to Ray on that, of like how to price your older work.
Yeah, older work's kind of tough because I have an older body of work which was wildly successful, and I sold every piece, and it was quite high value compared to what I sell right now. So when it's the money work. And so when I make any more, or I have an old piece I sell, I have to sell it at the market value that it was and is. So, but it's a lot different than the work that I show. So I wouldn't change your pricing upward or downward. I would just keep it at what it was. I think the other thing you can do that Nicole didn't address is, and I do this all the time on social media, I'll want to push out some older work and I'll do it on Instagram and Facebook, because
That's a great idea.
I don't want to keep it on my website. I'm very much with you on that, Nicole. There's probably no work on my website that's older than 5 or 6 years, unless it's in this kind of like older section that I have. I don't call it that, but it sits over there. All the current stuff is probably less than 5 years old, actually. But then the older stuff, which is not for sale on my website, I just put it on the Instagram, and I usually end up finding buyers for it, strangely enough. So that's one idea.
Yeah, I had a artist, one of my clients, she completely changed directions. So she used to make more art advisor friendly work, and she needed room, as most artists do. She started doing large installations. She needs room. So she kind of marketed it as a flash sale. And if you've ever wanted one of my older pieces, and then she gave updates. So she made all these beautiful, tiny little wall sculptures. She put it kind of in a grid system. And then on Instagram, she would just X out the ones that sold, so it kind of updated people. It created a sense of scarcity. And the reason behind it, she wanted to make more room for her new body of work that she's so excited to, share, and so she's teasing her newer work. She's giving a reason why she's getting rid of it, or if it's kind of the price is lower than normal. She wants to create space,
Yeah. Jane has a question. She wanted me to talk about my strategy for promoting work for sale on Instagram. Are you talking about my particular work or just work for sale on Instagram, Jane?
I'd say both.
Yeah.
If you're having a success selling work on Instagram, what are your secrets?
Well, during COVID, I had great success selling work on Instagram because everybody was home and I was making work and posting things every day. And so it was sort of that thing. People went, I love it. How much is it? And I'm like, I don't know, $200. And I'm like, I'll take it. And then I had to figure out how to get paid. And my daughter smartly said to me, Dad, you could just get a professional Instagram page and they could buy it right off your Instagram. So I converted over to that. And then you can tag the pieces that you show on your Instagram. And when people hit it, it goes to a sales page. It makes you, I don't know if it still does this, but it made me create a professional Facebook page. So it goes from your Instagram to your Facebook shop. Weirdly, though, it actually then goes to my website where it's e-commerce and they buy it off of that. But I haven't had any luck since COVID selling stuff on Instagram, so I don't do that as much. When I promote the earlier work, as Lynn pointed out, it's not older work, it's earlier work. It's a fine distinction, and I like that, cousin. When I post the earlier work, I just say DM me. So it's kind of old school, because I don't know what the reaction is to it. And sometimes I'll just post something for shits and giggles that's old, and then someone will go, I want that. And then it's like, oh, well, okay, then I have to figure out how to take the payment and stuff. But there are ways to make your Instagram professional and to have people buy, just click right off the Instagram and get it if they want. And it's not that hard to convert. I mean, it's literally a button.
Did you use, do you use Shopify? Is that what you use for your
No,
website?
I did for a long time with startup, and we were selling work through Shopify on our page, but I don't like the interface. So I just sell right off of Squarespace.
Okay, so
They-
Squarespace is the backer for the,
It's
so for
backer.
someone who doesn't have e-commerce set up.
Yeah.
You need something to have inventory to put into, Instagram. So Shopify is one, or if you have a Squarespace website, paying for that. If you don't want to deal with all of that, or you're not very tech savvy, I think doing the DM me for inquiries is just a really easy way. And then you can have a conversation with somebody and, they can figure it out. So, yeah.
But as I like to, but the thing about DM, and I know people,
Direct message for those who don't know.
yes, and my whole thing, I constantly admonish people for that on their websites. I'm always like, don't have a DM me on your website, have a buy button, because you want to make the buying experience as frictionless as possible.
Yes.
So I know for me, if I like something, I'm not gonna fucking DM you. Screw that. I want to buy it now. I'm so, attached to instant gratification. So just make it as easy as possible. But if you can. But yes, DM is the second most convenient way.
You could also send an email out and, a lookbook essentially of, what's for sale for that. Someone asked also kind of like, how would you do that flash sale? How would you host that? So that could just be, an email that you send out to your mailing with photos and, not everyone's going to want to buy now. Maybe they're an art advisor, maybe they want to rent it for a movie, make sure you have all the information and what size it is. It's a little harder with sculpture,
And let me hasten to add that your newsletter is the lowest hanging fruit. And that is where you should be pushing out your sales as much as you can. Because why is that? Because on Instagram, I have 41,000 followers myself. But when I post something on it, how many of those people actually see it?
Exactly.
It's a tiny, tiny portion. And as you pointed out to me, Nicole, in a previous conversation, you don't own those people. They can go away tomorrow. They don't know you, right? But my mailing list is my people. They're my collectors, my family, my friends, the people that are interested in me. Every time I do a newsletter, without fail, I just did one a couple of weeks ago. I sold 3 pieces. So that's where you push that stuff out. I think it's probably the easiest, fastest way to sell older, earlier work.
And with that, make it as easy as possible for people to sign up for your email newsletter.
Yes.
So make sure it's on your website.
Yes.
Test it, see if it works. When I had Squarespace, I realized that it was going into this database for Squarespace, and I don't use Squarespace for my email. I use MailChimp. So then I'd have to manually move them over, and that was just too much. So I just made a button on Squarespace.
Yeah.
I can show you guys. And if you guys don't have Linktree, that's another thing. I can put that into that's a really easy way. So if this, I'm sure you guys can see my screen over here.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you come here, instead of having my website, it goes to Linktree, which allows me to have multiple links so people can sign up for stuff. And at the bottom, it says join my newsletter. And that goes directly to this form that I've created in MailChimp. So people can sign up, they can self-identify. I've set this up and they can subscribe. And then on my website, at the bottom, they can, email me, obviously. I just have, join my newsletter, just something really simple. This is usually at the bottom or the top of most people's websites. And then another really great thing about Linktree is you can actually see how many people are clicking. There's actual, I can see for that. This is the back end now.
Oh yeah, 50 clinks.
Yeah. Join my newsletter. 50 people have clicked this.
Yeah.
So
I can't stress enough the idea of building your newsletter, people. I just feel like it's something we all should be doing every day, all the time, everywhere you go. When you have a show, when you're in an art fair, you have to have your little book, join my mailing list, and encourage people to do that. When I meet someone, the first thing I do is I introduce myself and I give them a business card. And then I ask them for a card. And when they give me a card, I go, hey, can I put you on my mailing list? And, you know, that's how you do it. Those are the hottest, warmest leads if you're trying to sell your work and get people involved with your career. We have a very direct question for you, Nicole, about how much it costs to work with you. How often are there openings?
right now my wait list has about 15 people on it. And I'm about to pull up 2 more people. This is the first time I've had new clients in a couple months. So the clients that I work with tend to stick with me for a really long time. So that's why I'm personally trying to do more workshops and also have free resources as well for people. So I do have a couple workshops coming up. So if you want to join my email list, that would be the best. And I can put a link to that at some point. How much do I charge? I charge $200 an hour. And I meet with people twice a month. So it's $400 a month.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not everyone's, like price point. So again, I try to have free resources, inexpensive workshops, like $40, or I think up to 75 if there's 2 people.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking about doing an artist group coming up in the summer. So.
And you do like Instagram workshops and stuff like that are open to a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have one coming in May that I'm actually teaching with Mike O'Connor, who's on here with Catherine Lorraine.
Hey,
And so it's May 10th, and it's about creating the perfect elevator pitch. So when you meet that important person, they, at a gallery opening, and you think they could change your life, do you know how to talk about your art? Do you clam up? Like, what is your elevator pitch? How do you describe your art in 1 or 2 sentences? That's what Mike teaches. That's his job. And he's really great at it. And then once you have that elevator pitch, I teach, how do I put that on my Instagram bio? How do I share that digitally? Do I have consistent branding? Stuff like that. And then also I'm going to have a workshop in May, actually out in Joshua Tree in Cathedral City. So that's not announced yet, but that's going to be an Instagram 101. So again, just get on my mailing list. I got lots of things, lots of irons in the fire. There we go. It's the end of the day.
I do think that artists, whether you like social media or not, you got to be on it, and you got to find a way to be consistent about it. I took a fantastic Instagram workshop with an artist out of New York who I love, and it helped me a lot. And what her first thing she said to all of us was, you don't have to live on social media to have a good social media following. You should be on there for less than an hour a week.
Yeah, get in and get out.
Get in and get out. Just do what you have to do. But it is important because that's where a lot of people look for artists. When people come to me and they introduce themselves and say I'm an artist, I'm not like, what's your website? I'm like, what's your Insta? So I can look at it and I can see what's going on. And they ask me the same thing. And so that's why you want to have a decent Instagram. And it's not that hard. And taking a class just kind of gives you the tools you need for creating a plan for doing it on a consistent basis and not making it onerous and horrible, because God forbid we all should become like some of the people on Instagram that are just completely narcissistic and on there all the time. It's awful.
Yeah. Learning your brand voice is really important. And I can't stress enough, like most people think, oh, I don't want to burden people, or I don't want to, I don't want to be that narcissistic person. Yeah. So the best way to kind of flip that in your brain and how to kind of get more motivated about social media is coming from a place of service. Artists supporting artists, sharing some of the resources that you use. Hey, I use this mover, or I really love this gallery. I just saw this amazing artist's work. Hey, I've been painting for 30 years. This is a fun little tip, this is what really helps. This is the best brush cleaner, Murphy's oil soap or whatever. Like, just coming from a place of service and gratitude, and not being bitter and angry or, disheartened, You don't have to pretend everything's puppies and roses. Like, if you're going through a hard time, share that. But, say that, hey, I'm going through a hard time, but I'm still showing up in my studio. I'm still making art, because this is what it means to be an artist. And
I think some of the best Instagram pages are ones where they have a consistent kind of number of things that they post about. And usually it's finished work, shows they're having, works in progress. Yeah, kind of tips, shout outs to other
tips and tricks are great.
It really only has to be like 4 or 5 things you post about on a regular basis, and kind of rotate them through. And I think I learned this from you, Nicole, in one of your like posts or something. If you have nothing to talk about, like nothing's going on in your career, do a walkthrough of your studio. Hey, this is where I work. Check this out. Look at this cool brush I just got.
Day in the life.
Yeah, day in the life of an artist. People love that stuff. I love it. I mean, I follow thousands of people, and I love seeing the process. It's really interesting for me. So
I used to tell the musicians I worked with, it's because when you're used to, and this goes for artists as well, when you're used to being an artist or used to being a musician, it loses some of the magic to you, because you just see it every day. You don't realize, but you've already won the lottery. If you're a full-time artist, or that's your main passion and your focus, like, you've already done what 99% of people will never do. Like, that is incredible. There's so many aspiring artists. There's so many people that would love to have your life, whether you believe that or not. And so by sharing something about your life, people are actually subscribing, they're following you, they want to hear updates. So just like you said, sharing your behind the scenes tour, or what you've been working on, what inspires you, what makes you like wake up in the morning and want to paint or sculpt or do whatever, kind of share your inner monologue.
And that's marketing. Marketing isn't like, hey, it's really nice to see you. Hey, let me tell you all about myself. Marketing is like sharing the cool things that are happening and the cool things you see. It's really
little teases, little breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Questions, people. Other questions anyone else has out there? And
unmute, jump in.
Yeah, you can unmute.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
It's a really weird, bizarre, off the wall question.
I love it.
Well, that's the kind you like to ask, Catherine. So okay.
I do, because I'm weird, bizarre, and off the wall. So years and years and years ago, I worked with a lot of art consultants. And so consequently, a lot of my work that's more corporate oriented, design oriented, is floating around out in the world. And I often get, they find me somehow, questions from people who say, I have this etching that you made back in 1901, and I want to know what the value of it is. And I want to tell them, look, you stupid shit, it's a design piece. It had nothing to do with value. But of course, I would never say that. Do you have any idea how to respond, Nicole and Ray, how to respond to that kind of a question and be polite, yet still be, honest?
Nicole,
What do you tell someone like that?
I don't know. Yeah, I like that. Someone said priceless.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is my area of expertise.
well, I guess the question I would ask myself is, if I were making that and selling it today, what would I charge?
Right.
What would it be?
That's true. Okay.
That's a really simple answer. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could also just tell them
point.
whatever it costs back in the day if you feel like that work really hasn't gained any value. So, but but yeah, just that's the way I would approach that. Or, I mean, if you totally wanted to be a dick, you could just say like, talk to an appraiser or something.
Well, there are actually those moments, but
Yeah.
what I've been doing is just saying, you need to go back to the person who purchased
it.
it from me
Yeah.
because they control it,
Hmm.
which
Okay.
means they have no idea, and therefore, it goes
Yeah.
into ether. But while I have this moment, let me just say that what Nicole has helped me with is being organized, because I
Mhm.
tend to be all over the place
Mhm.
and disorganized. So thank you, Nicole, for getting me at least in a world of calmness, and I know what to do, when to do it, and I get on with it. So that has been such a relief to me.
Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much, Catherine. I love working with you. It's great fun.
It I can't imagine it being fun for you.
Oh, I love it.
very
It's so funny.
informative for me.
Everyone that I work with is like, I'm so slow on the computer, or it's this, or this must drive you crazy. I'm like, it doesn't. I'm the most impatient person in out there in the world. But when I work one-on-one with people, you can go at your pace, your technology level, your whatever. It's really fascinating for me. So I love it.
I mean, that's kind of the nice thing about being an artist coach is like, I always tell the artists I'm working with, it's like, I'm not going to do a goddamn thing. You're going to do everything. So it's totally on you. I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm going to help you make a plan, but then it doesn't matter to me if it happens or not. Honestly, it's like, I want you to succeed, but in the end, it's sort of all on you. And that's kind of the beauty of making a career as an artist, is that it is all on us. We get to choose exactly what we want to do, the path we want to take, and how we want to take that path. And that's kind of a beautiful thing.
There's a question on the in the chat that you haven't answered from Mary.
What's that?
You see it from Mary?
Is there a fair amount of time to give a gallery to make sales before deciding to move on? Well, let me see. I showed at Cheryl Haynes' gallery for 9 years before I moved on. She didn't make a sale at all.
Really?
So maybe
Less than that.
than 9 years.
Shelley, it looks like you have a question.
I do have a question. So I'm working on some series, and and they're going out the door really quickly. So I'm kind of each time slowly raising the price. What do you think about that? Do I keep a steady price, but it's like I can't even keep them in stock, so to speak? So what do you think about like maintaining prices, or what's your advice on something like that, Ray or anybody? Nicole?
Supply and demand. This is basic economics. If you can't keep them on the shelf, I know personally your pieces take a lot of time to create and they're very intricate. So I would just set a general new price for them that really compensates your time. That's what I did with my consulting when I only had 1 or 2 clients. I was a lot cheaper than what I am now, but now I have this huge wait list. So it has to be higher because my time is very limited. Your time is very limited and your work is really incredible. So I would just set a new bar and then just have it at that until that is flying off the shelves and then reevaluate.
Yeah.
So each time, because it's like, okay.
Well, it's all part of a series. So I would just say for this series, the price was this per piece. Now the price is higher, and just try to keep it within that level, right? But I wouldn't each piece, because then it's going to be out in the world and they're all different prices. And I would just, whatever your pricing convention is, just raise it and then try to keep that for the rest of the series.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's time to raise it for sure. 10, 15, 20%. Yeah, I watched.
Inflation was 9% last year.
A couple of weeks ago, I was standing in her studio and she sold a piece while I was standing there.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, and everything had red dots on it. So I think that's about time to raise your prices.
Inflation was 9% last year. So milk and everything else in average got 9% more expensive.
Yeah.
I just went to a restaurant and at a Mexican restaurant, and for one beef taco with accoutrements was $26.
Ah.
So, you know, it's time to raise prices.
Everyone
Thank
else is doing it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And then you won't be as burnout, you know, you're gonna get paid for your time better.
I want to respect our guests' time here, and our hour is past here. We're at 7:04. And would you be able to take one more question, Nicole?
Yeah, I don't
Yes,
have
no?
anything. I'm happy to go for as long as you guys want.
Anybody want to shout out something, a burning question? Or not? I can pull a question out of our chat. Megan asked about renting art for films, which I think is an interesting question. What do you know about that, Nicole?
Not a lot, but I know a couple things. So this is where Instagram strategy works really well. Ann Weber just had someone discover her on Instagram, and she got one of her pieces on ABC's Grownish. And it was a great experience for her. They were very professional. They paid her a very nice rate.
Yeah.
And they picked it up, they installed it, they brought it back. It was wonderful.
Wow.
So having a good Instagram presence, you know, can lead to opportunities like that.
And there are consultants that only do
Mhm.
renting to the movies, by the
The
way.
art picks or something like that, I think.
Yeah, and we
is-
had one of them on this in this series of
Oh, yeah.
conversations, who I think you work with, Andre, and Shelley works with.
I don't,
Spacing out her name for some reason.
but I remember the
You're
talk.
re-
Yeah.
Are you referring to Art Dimensions?
Art Dimensions.
Yeah.
Thank you. What's her name again?
I don't know. You interviewed her,
I
although
know,
she
so
barely,
sad. It's
she barely
totally,
talked.
it's a mental thing. I'm old. So I'm getting
Her name is Whitney.
yeah, Whitney Rose.
Whitney
Whitney Rose-
something. She got
Oh,
married
yeah,
and
yeah,
changed
yeah,
her
yeah.
last
Whitney
name.
Rosen, and she.
Yeah.
did
She's not the
art
only one that does that, especially in LA. There's several consultants that rent
Yeah.
art and
He does that, and Art Dimension does that. I mean, Art Picks, but I.
Yeah, art picks. That's
Art Picks.
and
is
it's
a
very
much
easy
more-
to connect with them. You can just call them up or
Yeah.
email them and say, I have this work, I can make it available for licensing it or renting it. That's the great thing about art consultants, is that there's a bunch of them and they're always looking for new art. And so it's not hard to kind of connect with those guys if you want to get your stuff in
Mhm.
the movie.
But you have to, one thing to think about is, are you okay with your art being scuffed up? You know, depending on who you work at. It's same with if you show it in a design showroom. I just had a client who does sculpture pull their sculpture out because it was smaller and people thought it was a paperweight. So they just kept picking it up, and some kid came and broke it, you know, and
Yeah.
so he sold a piece. But you know, so just
The hard
think
way to do it.
about who the type of people on an art, you know, on a movie set. People should be respectful.
Yeah.
But I have had clients who have used those types of services and they have come back scuffed.
Yeah.
That was the point I was gonna make, is I would never put something in that market that you consider to be precious.
Mhm.
If you are going to be hurt, if it is damaged, because working in that industry, I will tell you that things do get damaged.
Yeah.
Then they have the art department try to sneakily try to touch it up and
Fix
hope
it.
you won't notice.
Yeah.
So beware, you know, it
Beware.
can be
Yeah.
a great experience, but if it's not, yes, it can be insured and all of that, but if
Yeah,
it's-
that's what I was gonna say, is have insurance and take very good photos of the whole piece before it goes out.
Can I just say something? Many years ago, I used to work with a woman that was only renting stuff out to film and television and all sorts of production stuff. And she got to a point where she would make a full-size digital image of your piece. That's what went on the set,
Got it.
because then your piece is not going to be damaged at all. And then when the production's over with, because it's in the background behind Jack Nicholson or something, when the production's
Wish it's
over,
behind Jack
they would
Nicholson.
destroy it. And so then your piece you've been licensed, you get your, you know, you don't make money doing this. You get tiny little checks.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's out there and you can see stuff. But I saw a show once many years ago, and two actors sitting facing each other across the table, and way in the background above a desk was this big, beautiful painting by an artist that I'm friends with. And it was like, oh, I know her. It
Mhm.
was really cool. For sure, it was a print because it was the same dealer.
Yeah.
And they went back to that set several times over at the course of this show. So, but that was one way that this particular dealer used to deal with it. And I believe the production company picked up the cost on that. So everybody was happy.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
The
part of
woman was
art life.
crazy. I don't work with her anymore, but she had a good thing going.
Yeah.
So,
But you're not going to get rich renting your work out to the movies.
will
just
not get
FYI.
rich. Yeah.
It's bragging rights mostly.
Yeah, it's great for Instagram to say, hey, this, to take a photo, hey, this was on here. It makes you look like you're wheeling and dealing, especially if you got nothing else going on, it's really nice.
Yeah, I've had friends contact me watching some rerun of something. So, I saw your painting on such a thing. You did? Okay. Forget all about it. But it's cool. It's fun to do.
Well, you guys, it is time to go. I know people are dropping off because they've got other things, and I appreciate, Nicole, you staying extra time to talk to us and answer our questions. And thank you, everybody, for your good questions. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
If you want to find Nicole, she has a website, and it is what, Nicole?
It's NicoleSlaterConsulting.com.
That's
That's
amazing.
That's the same as my Instagram handle. I did put in the chat to sign up for my newsletter, but you can also find that on Instagram on my link tree. There's a little, like I showed you guys. But that'd be a good place to start. If you're interested on getting on the wait list, just send me a message and I'll send you the link. And then I should have 3 or 4 workshops being announced here in the next month. So I'm going to try to start making my workshops like for the rest of the year. So, people can sign up.
And if people want to get on I Am an Artist, just DM me, as they say. My email is pretty easy. It's my name, ray@raybeldner.com. And I'll give you a link and you can join I Am an Artist and get on our Tuesday morning salon calls and just participate in that group if you're interested. And this talk, by the way, for those who haven't seen it, it's recorded. And I am going to post it on I Am an Artist when it's all done. And if I can figure out a way to get it on my website, I might put it there as well. But I'll let people know about that. Anyway, thanks everyone for coming. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you
Always
guys.
good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Ray.
And-
This was so fun. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
You.
All right, bye everyone.